All right, we are live. So, welcome back, Caryma Sa'd. It's your second time coming on the live stream slash podcast.
Thank you for
So,
having me back. I'm glad that you weren't scared off by my anti-fans.
no, no. So I don't know if we talked about this just in real life or or after, but we also went on a working trip together, so maybe it came up then. But I think I got the most angry messages after interviewing you the first time.
I have a very dedicated following, if we put it that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've interviewed a lot of controversial people, and I get a lot of haters. So if I notice, it's noticeable.
Well, It's always nice to be number one. I'm a
You're
winner.
winning.
I'm a winner all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I learned from you that there are actual chat rooms kind of devoted to hating you.
Yeah, on all sorts of platforms. The latest is a subreddit that is dedicated specifically to me. Um, it's maybe flattering. I don't know. Flattering is not the right word. But if it contains everything into one room of crazy or a few rooms of crazy, I guess that's maybe preferable. But it really does seem that people dedicate an undue amount of time to just obsessing and raging over a person they mostly, I would say, haven't met. And who cares nothing for their existence, right? So this is an entirely, it's not reciprocal, but that's the nature of the game, right? You take the good with the bad. It's sort of par for the course, and
Uh,
where it
unfortunately.
exceeds, and it goes beyond the law, I try to deal with it. So
It's interesting to me because your work is very neutral.
that is, I believe, what upsets them, because neutrality is inherently seen as against the cause,
Mm,
their movement, and so there is no room for anything that is not 100% towing their line, their narrative, their worldview, and I think because I really strive to bring a measure of fairness and objectivity to the work that I do, that's particularly threatening, and
mhm.
that it comes from me who, I tick a lot of boxes that these people seem to or purport to care about, and yet I'm not firmly planted in their camp. I really do believe that they consider that a threat, and so that's why so much effort is put toward discrediting me and trying to make people distrust my work and question my integrity and credibility and so on and so forth, because otherwise, if when people listen to what I have to say, um, it shatters their whole illusion of self. So I can see how that would be cause for concern. It doesn't justify this level of obsessive behavior, but I think that it explains it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I thought about it. Like, I know now, I know a lot of independent journalists by this point, and um, I'd say that you and Alexandre Lavoie from Rebel are the most targeted journalists who I know. Um, and you're both in major cities, and I think it's for different reasons. Alexandra is like you; she shoots a lot in raw,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that this is a particularly alienating way to do journalism for these activists, because when they're being shot in raw without the kind of legacy narrative behind them, it's very difficult to justify
Mhm,
their behavior, right? Their
mhm,
antics.
mhm,
And I've seen CTV, I've seen Global at events, and CBC, well, Radio Canada, but the CBC in Quebec,
mhm,
covering events. And generally, they swoop in, they're there for a very short period of time.
mhm,
They usually give a glowing interview to a spokesman
mhm.
for whatever the I'm talking about covering protests
Mhm.
specifically.
Yeah, yeah,
So they
yeah.
usually give a glowing kind of very, very short interview with a spokesman, a chosen spokesman, and then they leave. And that's kind of the sum of it. And it's almost always framed in a I would say a positive light
Mhm,
for the protests,
mhm.
regardless of how extremist the protest is.
Yeah, the reality is that there's good, bad, ugly, and the bad and the ugly somehow don't make the cut unless it pertains to certain groups or certain ideologies, or you know, there are protests here. I'm thinking, for example, the Canada First protest,
Yeah.
where it's not balanced coverage. First of all,
I
it
haven't
is not.
actually looked at their coverage. What, like, how are they reporting on the?
They do to some extent, and they will, to a certain degree, interview participants in that protest, and then that sort of then they'll also cover the counter protest, but not really cover the counter protest, just in a very superficial, sort of perfunctory way. And
Mm,
I think it can be misleading. And the truth is, even watching all of my footage from a particular event or all of Alexa's footage from a particular event, you're still only getting
yeah,
a perspective. But
yeah,
I
because
do think that
some of the
so much is
protests are
swept under the
huge.
rug.
So
Yeah.
yeah, some of the, like, I've covered protests before where I've known a few other journalists who are there, but we're all in different locations
Mhm.
and we all saw different things because
Yep.
some of the protests there are thousands of people.
It's so dynamic, right? And you have a crowd that's moving, and there can be an incident with a passerby at the front of the parade that the back
Hmm.
of the parade never even heard of, and you have different personalities, and how they are interacting with police, with each other. It's you can't capture the full thing ever,
Yeah,
but the legacy media, I would say, consistently, they really don't do much
try.
to paint a full picture.
Yeah, I mean, they, in my experience, they actively go out of their way to avoid covering it fairly.
Yeah, and as well with the choice of who to interview, even,
Hmm.
right? Who is the spokesperson? Are we getting kind of a full understanding of what this person stand? Of course not, right? Of course not in a very short soundbite. But it's a little bit shocking, the choices. And then I think about, okay, here are some of the interactions I've had with this individual or others have had. And like, that's the voice that you chose. And, they sound reasonable in this 30-second interview, but that's not, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's a challenge, right? And but there are deliberate choices being made, and I think it's to the detriment of the public interest, because unless you are actually there to observe it, or you're taking in different vantage points, you just don't have a full picture of what's going on. And the in particular, I would say, the amount of resources that go into policing or babysitting these demonstrations, like, the average person has no clue.
yeah, I would agree with that. To wit, I'm going to bring up a clip because um, people, I assume a fair number of people who are watching this know my work or yours and will be familiar, but I still think we should play. Okay, one second. Okay, so I'm going to play the video. Why don't you just set it up for people first, though?
Sure. So this is footage from May 27th of 2025. My cameraman and I were documenting a protest outside Casa Loma. The demonstration was against an organization hosting its annual event or gala at the venue. And in the midst of this, just shortly after protesters decided to take the road and disregarded police orders to stay on the sidewalk, and they, are whose streets are streets.
What was the event?
It was something the Abraham Peace Initiative. I forget the name of the organization, but they had some Israeli speaker.
Okay.
I think it was the guy who shredded the UN Charter as sort of a little bit of a dramatic display at the UN. So I believe that he was either the keynote or was being celebrated in some way. And so that was the catalyst for the demonstration. And so we were recording the whole thing. And right as protesters took the streets, my videographer was in the center of it, and a stranger, or I should say someone we hadn't kind of clocked up to that point. Later, we pieced together that we'd seen her a few times. She approached him from behind, yanked down his pants, exposed his genitals to what I would say is a pretty hostile crowd. And then she laughed and ran away. And I guess that's to set up the clip, and then I'll tell you after sort of how it unfolded.
Okay.
You can see he's just kind of minding his own business, right? This is obviously significant that protesters have taken over the streets. Police have kind of
lost control of the streets. Absolutely, entirely. Whoa! You sexually assaulted me! Where's Mr. McDuff? McDuff! Just back up. Yeah, no problem. I want to talk back up to the sidewalk. Thank you so much.
Get out of here, you asshole! Get out of here!
Thank you.
You're standing on the sidewalk. He's dealing with a couple things. He'll come talk to you.
Mr. McDuff? I have a girl on video who pulled my pants down.
All right. Which,
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the clip in its whole, unedited, just as it unfolded. I suppose he could have pointed downwards that we could see the pants, but I understand why we chose not to do that.
Yeah.
But it what has happened since then, and even later that day, is protesters from the same network teasing him about it. I've seen this, it's just now it's a recurring thing that's brought up. Obviously, a very humiliating experience, intentionally degrading. The woman we eventually identified, right, through my own work, I found her name, I found, an address, I found kind of all the information that police would need in order to effect an arrest. To their credit, they did. She was charged with simple assault, nothing that took into account, in my view, kind of the specific nature of forcibly disrobing someone in front of a crowd. But regardless, she was charged with assault. And, the case makes its way through the system. My videographer prepared a victim impact statement describing, what this incident meant for him and how it has affected his work. And fast forward to a couple weeks ago, maybe, I reached out I had been trying to reach out to police and hadn't been getting a response.
So they didn't keep you apprised of anything during the process?
Not at all. And it turns out that it had been withdrawn back in November. Right? And so how is it that now I'm finding out in April that this has already been dealt with? She apparently has a common law peace bond.
What does that mean? Because people might not know.
Yeah, sure. A peace bond essentially is a promise to the court to keep the peace and be of good behavior. Sometimes there are other specific provisions relating to individuals who may have been like complainants. I don't even know if that was a component of this here because the Crown hasn't responded to anything from me. So
there was no investigator assigned? Like there was no police contact assigned to you?
So there was a police contact, and we provided all of the video footage and information and so on and so forth to that person who presumably passed it on to the Crown Attorney. But then the Crown Attorney never bothered to reach out. The police contact never bothered to reach out. There was just no further information. And despite this being I would say a very deliberate, targeted, and potentially hate motivated incident. And what's particularly egregious is this is the second time that my videographer has been the complainant in a case where, and the other situation was someone who spat on him at a non-Palestine related demonstration, spat on him, called him a Zionist pig. And once again, we did the work of identifying her, finding the address, making sure that police had everything they needed on a silver platter. And it's the Crown who decided to withdraw, again, without consulting. And what I guess is important for people to understand is complainants in criminal trials don't actually have legal standing in the sense that they don't control the process. They are obviously witnesses. They're central to, it. Without a complainant, there typically is no criminal case, but they're not in the driver's seat by any means. Nonetheless, one would expect in sort of a justice system that individual would at the very least be kept apprised, and in an ideal situation, at least consulted, right? And sort of seek a little bit of feedback, right? And that hasn't happened at all at this particular courthouse. What's also interesting to note is that there is kind of a network of defense lawyers who are often handling these types of protester cases that get withdrawn. And some of these, and that's, very normal to have a niche. I practice criminal defense. I'm not sort of casting aspersions on in a general sense, but there does appear to be something of a pipeline where there are activists who promise, we're going to connect you to a lawyer. It's always the same group of lawyers. There's then sort of advice that might potentially get people in trouble, sometimes does land people in trouble, but they have a sort of an immediate safety net that's prepared for them. and they, and get results like the one we see here. So it's not just a policing issue. There's also a prosecution issue. There's also a defense issue. It is sort of every part of the legal system. And I understand how people feel that there is sort of a two-tiered approach, because other cases that maybe fall along different ideological lines are treated and prosecuted much differently.
Yeah, so that mirrors almost exactly the same experience I had in Montreal, because I also did not understand that the complainant is not really an active participant at all in the process. However, the police officer who was assigned to my case did communicate, and I was grateful for that. And I'm now in the process because I was assaulted. I was swarmed and assaulted on October 7th, 2024. I gave a witness statement. There were witnesses. There was video, my video, also video from Place des Arts. There was a 911 call. And I expected them to move forward with the case, and the Crown did not. So it didn't happen at the policing side of it. It happened within the legal side. So I put in a Freedom of Information request, or ATIP, I guess, in Canada, because I want to see what happened, and I'm going to look into it. But it took it wasn't a year, but it was almost a year for the Crown not to proceed. And so what this does, because one of the men who was involved in the swarming had also at one point had charges for assaulting a police officer at a different event. I wasn't covering it. I wasn't there. And those charges just, I don't know exactly what happened. They just, went away. And I think that it emboldens people who have a pattern of violence, and emboldens people who don't, because they understand that they're able to do what they please to whomever they choose, and there won't be any consequences.
Yeah, it is really corrosive to public confidence in the administration of justice. And I agree with you completely. It emboldens bad behavior if there is no sense that there will be consequences faced. It almost becomes a joke. And it is at every stage. So hard enough as it is to get police to take action. And then when they do take action, Crowns can decide not to proceed, whether, not in the public interest, no reasonable profit. Like these are all legitimate concepts, right? And it's also legitimate that, yes, we don't want complainants to be completely in the driver's seat, because, the sort of personal or emotional impact of being a victim, that's not that shouldn't be the driving force, right? We don't want a system that is motivated by seeking retribution or revenge, or that's all fine. The problem, as I see it, is that the use of discretion is being applied in such a way that there are patterns that emerge, and these patterns are noticeable. And it is unfair. It's fundamentally unfair. There's this saying, discretion is where justice goes to die. And it's, somewhat true, because discretion can also be applied in such a way that, you achieve sensible outcomes. But again, if it's done and you're seeing the opposite, or a two-tiered system emerges, or a multi-tiered system emerges, then if there's no predictability, then you undermine rule of law.
Yeah, I during the course of my work, I have become somebody, I guess even before that actually, as I became better acquainted with the legal system, I stopped calling it a justice system and started calling it a legal system. And unfortunately, I was somebody that always had a fair amount of confidence in institutions. I was never a Pollyanna, but I thought that on balance, on average, that the systems were working, say 20 years ago. And I don't believe that anymore. I see them as instruments of ideologically captured regimes that want specific outcomes. And I feel as though I'm living in an anarcho tyranny. And actually, it's to the point now. So the last time I covered a protest was on Easter Sunday. And I've been told, I'm very happy about this. I'm going to make a post about it. But I'm a member of the Independent Press Gallery, and they've offered to provide me with security now
Oh,
because
wow.
yeah. So that's really going to help because it was to the point where I can't cover events on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
need to basically go with a group, try to corral a group of independents.
Mhm.
Everybody's busy. We all have different, they have their assignments, they have their, what they want to cover within the protest as well.
Yeah.
But we it's not possible for any of us to circulate alone because we're all kind of known by
Yeah.
radicals who will assault us. So at one point I wanted to leave the protests, excuse me, that we were covering because there were 4 protests going on at the same time.
Mhm.
And I wanted to leave and come back, but I didn't think I could safely do so. It wasn't reasonable.
Yeah.
For sure I would have been followed, for sure. I probably would have been jumped.
Yep.
And I can't take those kind of chances. It's dangerous. And so I was unable to get the coverage that I'd hoped. What I did was still important, and I did get to cover the main thrust of what I was hoping to cover, but I would have liked to speak to some of the people at the other protests and understand what they were protesting that day. But it really, people don't understand the level of, you have Antifa. Maybe you can explain that to people after who they are. But Antifa will show up at these events as well, even though they're not really part of the Montreal for Palestine world. They'll still show up at these events and follow journalists after. You have to have eyes in the back of your head. I'm constantly turning when I'm filming, even when there are police with us, because there were 2 people following us even on Easter Sunday in broad daylight, and the police didn't notice. They're following us. We're being followed from behind as well. And so it's people that are not observing the separations that they're supposed to. And as we saw from your footage, it can get chaotic and the lines can be totally broken. So it's very, very hard for people to cover this in an honest way. So I don't know if that keeps the legacy media away. I know Terry Newman, she's from National Post. She has gone and covered at length a few of the protests.
Mhm.
But in Toronto, is there anybody who covers from legacy media ever?
From legacy media, I mean, I've seen Toronto Star reporters out on occasion, but not really in a consistent way.
Not
You
at length,
have-
right?
you have
They kind of
activist
pop
media.
in and out.
Yeah, sporadically, right? So not kind of at every event, or not in a way that would put them in a position to identify any meaningful patterns, I don't think. You do have activist media who are part of the movement, and they obviously can move freely and have no problems and report nothing but sunshine and, people who are trying to disrupt the peaceful protest. And then you have activist sort of media who maybe oppose what's going on, and then you have like very few and far between, just individuals like myself who I just want to go document. I have no dog really in this fight, apart from just wanting peace and order in Canada. So yeah, it is a fraught landscape, and it's hard to overstate the negative impact of not being free to move around as you wish, to document as you wish, like it is almost as though you know, the rights of expression and assembly for whatever group happens to be larger and more dominant, that's who controls the streets. And anyone else is just a nuisance to police. There's a lot of victim blaming that goes on. And, you know, as far as being afforded protection, it's hit or miss. I will say some sort of inspectors and frontline officers are quicker to react than others, and are more reliable as far as sort of ensuring a safe environment. But on balance, whoever has more people and is more likely to become violent, that's who is afforded deference. And it should not be that way, obviously. If legacy media isn't interested in covering it or unwilling to cover it, I don't think that this is just about like a few hours in the street here and there. I think that there are much deeper implications that it's just not explored.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put this up before, so sorry, I'm just looking. Because what you said made me think of this. Sorry, I'm not good at doing things on the spot.
No, and I'll just add to this while you're looking. There's also like so much misunderstanding of the law, both among protesters and police, who just seem not to know how things are in the books, at least, right? And then if the law is not enforced, then what good is it? And I've had to file LECA complaints against police who, unfairly. LECA is Ontario's law enforcement complaints agency. So they receive complaints about specific officers or incidents. And I've filed a few complaints where I believe police were offside in the way they handled situations. There's one incident that comes to mind where a couple of people who were dressed head to toe in black bloc. And for those who aren't familiar, that means, there's no identifying features. They're in a balaclava. They're also wearing a hoodie. They're also wearing gloves. They're also wearing sunglasses. They're also, in all black. So it's just, how do you establish identity under those circumstances? And these people were being allowed to chase my videographer around. They're literally holding Antifa flags, Antifa stickers, they are the ones who are aggressing upon him. He's constantly retreating. And then at a certain point, police just sort of meander over and are like, you're going to be arrested if you stay on this sidewalk. And it's like, excuse me, this is a public sidewalk, literally outside City Hall. So our actual town square. And you want to restrict the mobility and freedoms of expression and assembly and so on and so forth of the peaceful person.
And the press.
Yes, and the press. That's right, because it's not, this apply. If it was just a sort of a random person, I would have the same position.
Me too.
I would say it's particularly problematic when the footage from this event, it ends up being broadcast, right? And my reach goes far beyond just my social media account. It's picked up by other accounts. Sometimes it ends up in legacy media or on the radio or, so it reaches people. People come to me for information on things. And so you're not just curtailing one person's rights, you are preventing the broader public from being informed. I find that to be so serious, and yet it is not taken seriously. And again, you have sort of victim blaming. Well, you don't have to be here. You could go do something else. They don't want to be recorded. So what?
Do you
So
ever
what if
get
you don't wanna
told
be recorded?
your very presence is creating an event? I've been
Yeah,
told
you're agitating people with
presence,
your presence.
my
Excuse me?
presence is creating an event, like as though I'm
You
just parting the Red Seas. I walk in and it's just creating an event. I'm on the red card. Like it's such a weird thing to say. I know it's like a
Yeah.
legal term, but it's like, what are you even saying?
No,
Creating an event.
it is just ridiculous. And at law, like the Supreme Court has said that you're actually allowed to be there. You're allowed to counter protest. You're even allowed to be obnoxious about it. And it's the person who threatens to breach the peace with violence that's who needs to be
Exactly.
restrained,
Like
right?
standing
Not
silently
the
filming is not the danger.
right.
I'm going to play this because what you said before made me think of this. So this is, I'm sure it's been, but for people who may not, it's been the public prayer, the prostrations by Montreal for Palestine, which is it's a pro-Hamas group. It's not, some of the groups are just pro-Palestinian. This is a group that uses actual Hamas slogans in their speeches and calls for violence against people who disagree with them. They're a very militant group. So this group has been doing public prostrations. This was coverage that I got at the Cenotaph, which is the war memorial for our fallen soldiers who fought in the Great Wars, in the Korean War. And this was one of the only times where the police actually protected me because I ended up being, as usual, surrounded and swarmed. And they did intervene, and I was happy about that. But this shows kind of the conditions of what happened before the police intervened and what it's like to try and just film, silently standing there filming, not even wanting to interact with anybody. So I'll play that.
Please.
No,
I will ask you to stop filming. You are harassing the people here.
this is
You are
Canada.
harassing the people
You're harassing me
here.
right now. Don't you put your hands on me.
You are harassing the people who are here. You are harassing the people. I will ask you to leave.
I'm not leaving. This is public park. And we're in Canada.
We're
We're
in
not in
Canada.
the
I
Middle
know.
East. There are mosques all over the city.
Yeah,
Call
please.
us.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're harassing the people here.
I'm not anywhere near the people here.
You're quite a distance away as well.
Yeah.
If you want to keep playing, you can keep playing for a while.
It's like this creepy man.
I don't put a finger on
You
you.
better not put a finger on me.
I'm not putting a finger on you. Just leave.
Also, this tactic of I'm not touching you, when
Yeah.
very clearly, there is a reasonable apprehension of unwanted physical contact. Like
Yeah,
you don't
he's
actually
like literally
need to touch
this-
someone to assault them.
This far away from me,
Yeah.
waving in my face, obstructing my ability to move, putting his two arms around me so I can't move, turning every way that I'm turning. I try to run across the snow.
It's
He follows
confinement.
me. I mean, it's totally unacceptable.
Yep.
Like if any male did this to another male in a different context, he'd get dropped. But like they really go after women in my experience in that way. Guillaume Roy, I don't know if you know him, but he's a videographer. He's actually being pulled down and ended up in the hospital for his elbow. They opened him up. He was bleeding. He was pulled from behind by a bag, and they had security that day. And they breached the security and got him. And he just basically, it was the equivalent of a sucker punch because he was pulled back from behind, like he's filming. You're focused on filming, right? So, and the conditions that I just showed, that's not bad. Like I've been pushed up against brick walls, surrounded. I've been hit. I don't know how many times I've been punched and kicked. I've been hit with signs where I've had to push them off. I've been surrounded by one of those big banners, like just wrapped in a banner.
Yep.
I've been hit with flagpoles. I've had cigarettes thrown at me, like lit cigarettes thrown at me. I've had stickers put on my back.
Mhm.
I've had my hearing, I believe, permanently damaged from, what do you call them again?
The megaphones, the electronic whistles.
The whistles,
Yep.
like being put in my ears to the point where I couldn't hear 911 when I called. Like I couldn't hear the operator.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of all the different ways that I've been assaulted by these peaceful protesters.
Yeah, and everything that you've said, same. Like same, and that should not be the case. And it's fascinating. Yeah, we're in different provinces. It is. How is it that that is the standard response that
It's
we're
the norm
seeing
now.
in Canada?
It's the norm. And the thing is, like, so the coverage that that Alexa and Guillaume got of the public prayers, and that you got, and that I got, and that Leviathan amplified. I'm trying to think of everybody. I don't want to leave anybody out.
I think Chris
That-
Dacey has gotten stuff along those lines as well.
Oh, it's true. Chris, I
Yeah.
forget about the Ottawa people that are doing their work in Ottawa.
Mhm.
The coverage was pushed into the mainstream and actually became legislation in Quebec.
Yeah.
So the work really is significant. It isn't just following, these annoying people around and following what they're doing. Like there is, like, it's important. And so it's very frustrating when we are treated as a nuisance and impeded from doing our jobs, because the last protest I covered, I had to like climb up onto a bench to be able to get footage. And Alexa was trying to cover closer, and they assaulted her and they started hitting her equipment. So, I stood at a distance but climbed up. There were speeches that I couldn't hear. Saying to the police, like, we're so far away that I can't even hear what they're saying. Oh, but that's okay. You can film. No, I can't hear. I don't have, a $3,000 camera. I use my phone and I have a body cam. Like, no, I can't.
You
pick
did have
it
a
up.
$3,000 camera, it would probably get smashed. So
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. There is significance to this, and if in any normal context, protesters want their message to be amplified.
Exactly.
So how does this make any sense? And you have a right to express yourself in public, just as others have the right to document you doing that. And one right does not supersede the other.
Yeah.
But that's lost somehow. And I do believe it is part of a path of least resistance thing. And I think that police are scared, for themselves and potentially for blowback if they are more forceful about maintaining law and order and enforcing the law.
Especially
and
in
so
Quebec.
you end up with this sort of complacency, and just it obviously keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. I think I've thought about this a lot because initially I, especially because I've always been like high trust with police. I've had very limited interactions with the police before my work in journalism, to be honest, like very limited. And my experiences were largely fine. And so I thought about a lot, like why the wheels are falling off. And this was even before my violent arrest, which has certainly, made me a little more apprehensive around.
Is that resolved, by the way, or is that still ongoing?
No, I have a criminal trial in December.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, I was put in the hospital, but I'm being charged. Thank God I have support from Rebel. People think I'm with Rebel News, but I'm not. I've never worked for them. But they
You did attend
crowdfunded
the
for
Christmas
me.
party, though, so you basically
That's true.
are the poster girl, I think, now.
Yeah, I was seen at their Christmas party along with you. So now
I was tuning in to your interview with
with Lise.
the other day. And I just was in stitches at the whole recounting of this notorious, infamous, Christmas party. I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. I too would agree. I love, like you've seen me. I love to party. Like I love to have a
This
good
is
time.
true. This is. I've seen you dancing on tables in Jerusalem. This is true.
There's a chair.
Sorry.
There's a chair. Yeah.
How inaccurate of me.
I don't dance on. I'm classy. I don't dance on tables, just chairs. Yeah. No. Yeah. I like it. I like to have a good time, and if someone's going to invite me to a party, I'm probably going to go. That's life is short. We have a lot of stress, and it's important to enjoy life.
I agree. Send me invitations, everyone, for events with food. I don't care the party, but I do want to eat. So.
Yeah, that was fun that night in Jerusalem. That was like 30 seconds of dancing.
Yeah.
That ended up, actually, I had like a mixed group of comments online, but the Ahmed crowd found it quite risible. They were not happy that I had any joy in Jerusalem. Yeah. Tough luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I got distracted. I wanted to play. I'm like, now I'm thinking about the Bruce Arthur thing. I'm like, I'm off in my mind, He's such a sourpuss. What a Christmas Grinch, what a Grinch. He doesn't like women dressed up and having a good time for Christmas, Yeah. I want to bring this up now. Is it? Oh no, sorry. I forgot to pull it up on the screen. Okay. This man, I've been watching with delight.
Introduction.
Generous introduction. He's I laughed so hard. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be proud to admit this, but I'm an open book. I laughed so hard that I cried when I saw teenage boys take his sign from him.
Twice. We didn't capture the first time on camera. We just got them running away, but then they returned for more. And it was just, as someone put it in the comments, it looks like he's used to being bullied by teenagers. And I think that's probably true.
Someone in the comment wrote, "Man, laugh out loud." Sorry, it's maybe a generous use of the term, but I think he's a gem. He's brought me more joy than he probably ever knew he could in life. So let's watch him.
Traitor, coward! Traitor, coward!
Oh, sorry, can you set this up for people?
There is no context that would make this make sense. However, Trevor Miller is the gentleman in the blue sweater and keffiyeh. On this particular day, he was counter-protesting a rally against child trafficking. And he then started
He was counter...
there was a lot of double negatives there. But there was a Moms Resist event, and they were anti-child trafficking. And
so
he
was pro-child trafficking?
In fairness to him, but he described that event as, this is a white nationalist event. I don't see any basis for that characterization. So yeah, technically he was pro child trafficking.
The pro-child trafficking side. Okay.
Right. Which, tracks. Anyway, but in the midst of this, he found an Iranian, like an anti-regime Iranian man. And then he started accusing him of being a traitor for his support of the Shah. So he's very anti-Shah, pro-Islamic Republic, I assume.
This white man.
Yes. Okay. Yes. The white man, in his infinite wisdom, was accusing this other man of being a traitor and not knowing anything about,
his
Iran.
Country of origin.
Yeah, which is just, an astounding level of hubris, without kind of even weighing in on whether this other Iranian gentleman is right or wrong in his views. It doesn't matter. It's just the sheer arrogance to to make personal attacks against someone you don't know personally, just about the most superficial understanding of their politics. Like, the whole thing is embarrassing. So anyway, he was disrupted from his pro-child trafficking stance. I'm being facetious. I don't think he's pro-child trafficking. But regardless, so then he starts fighting with this other random guy. And this is all happening directly outside the Eaton Center. And I guess we'll see what else happens here.
Okay.
Coward, traitor, coward, traitor, dreaming a non-existent country. You're Palestine, where? You're a traitor. I love my country. You're a coward, You're a coward and a traitor.
Who are those guys?
One is a regular sort of hanger-outer at Yonge and Dundas.
Okay.
So he just kind of
Is he
chills
like
there.
homeless
He's in,
or?
I don't know.
Okay.
But he's definitely kind of, he loiters in that area and is generally harmless, I would say.
Okay.
And then the other gentleman is Rob Monroe, who is another sort of independent media who goes out and, will put questions to protesters and, is often critical of some of the anti-Canadian messaging that he sees.
Okay.
Palestine, bunch of terrorists like you. You don't know what I'm doing. Don't touch. Don't touch. No. You're not touching, okay? You're touching her. You don't fight, y'all. Come on, Nick. You don't fight.
Oh, yikes.
So that lady who sort of jumped in at the end was actually not involved with any of this, except that prior to this video, she was being incited by Trevor Miller, who was telling her that, these people are pro-Trump, these people are, pro-white supremacy, just sort of inciting. And she got riled up to the point of inserting herself into this argument about Iran, which I don't know that she has strong opinions on. She was obviously intoxicated. And yeah, this is one of the videos where he's inciting. And it's worth noting that this is not the first time Trevor Miller has kind of put ideas in what I would say is a relatively vulnerable person's mind that then sort of provokes them into physical violence. I've seen this happen before. I've documented it in the past. And it's a really disturbing tactic from someone who purports to be sort of pro-human rights, pro-marginalized, and yet will use people as pawns, to sort of create a shield around him.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. I mean, if your day drunk downtown, you're starting off not in the best shape. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Without taking away from her agency at all.
Yeah.
But definitely, he was stoking the fire, if we put it that way.
Yeah. I'm just looking. I'll play the clip, but I'm just looking. Underground Nation Pod wrote Caryma Gang. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's an inside joke. Okay.
I don't know. I aspire to having a gang, so that's nice.
You can be a leader now. Histrionic Helene wrote, "Ha ha ha," and Trevor Miller makes applique on jean jackets for effeminate communists.
That's true.
Oh, that's true.
I think he may be a gifted sewer. So kudos to him for that.
Okay. And Underground Nation Pod wrote, "Rob my guy." And she fights for anyone. And he wrote, "Drunk native is a goat." I think he means greatest of all time, that reference. So he's a fan. Okay, so let's play.
Fuck that! Fuck you guys! Are you?
Right?
What
Like
a
she
fucking
doesn't
hell.
know anything about my videographer. She just heard Trevor say something. He
Yeah.
supports Trump or whatever. And then boom, that's all it takes to set someone off.
That's scary.
And that's another thing that makes covering these rallies dangerous at times, that you are, you know, occasionally fighting a mob, and oftentimes fighting people who really are just being wound up and set in your direction for
Yeah.
no real reason. There's no basis in reality. She hasn't personally heard or seen anything that would support Trevor's accusations, but you know, evidence doesn't matter when you're just looking for someone to fight.
You're absolutely right. It happens now every time I cover one of these protests that there will be a call out basically by the leaders that identify me.
Mhm.
On Easter weekend, it was, you know, Mossad and blah, blah. Like if you're hiring Mossad, I don't know if my skill set would work or not, but I'm open at this point. I could do some spying. I think I might not be very good at it, but you know. So yeah,
I
identifying
feel like you'd
Mossad,
be
and
too honest to be a spy.
I'm pretty much incapable of lying, so I
Yeah,
think that would make me a failure right away. But I am disarming.
it's true. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah. Okay. See, yes, you have a skill set that could work.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. People like to talk to me. I mean, not people at these rallies usually. But if they're people that don't regularly go, they'll usually have a
Mhm.
conversation with me, but then they'll be kept from speaking to me.
Oh
But like
yes,
someone,
the
you know,
marshals who intervene and whisper something in their ear and then whisk them away, and you know,
yeah.
it's almost futile to talk to anyone, but
I used
because
to
that's meant
really
to be
try, like,
demoralizing, we just carry
yeah.
on. You know?
Yeah. I used to try in earnest, but it's not really possible anymore unless it's people really on the fringe who are walking by, and then I can get the man on the street. But even then people are afraid. Like I saw these men, I went up to talk to them. They looked like hockey fans. They were wearing the jersey. There was going to be a game later in Montreal, a Habs game. And so I went up to ask them, you know, if they would let me interview them. They're from Abitibi-Témiscamingue, which I love to say. And they were just shocked by what was going on, but they didn't want to go on camera. Unfortunately, it's people are scared, you know, to be identified.
Mhm.
But okay, so we'll go back to this lady.
Talk you. Fuck Trump. Hold this fucking sign for us. For us, not you. Fuck ICE and Trump. Yeah. Fuck you guys. Go back to your country.
I'm Canadian.
Trevor Miller! Trevor Miller!
Right? Yes.
Trevor!
Are you guys?
I don't really love Trump. No, I don't.
Well, count that. Woo! Fuck
right.
Trump.
Yeah.
Fuck ICE too. Yes. Count that shit. Count that shit.
How you doing?
So confusing.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. How long you doing here? I just got here.
I love my fucking country.
That's good.
Yes. I'm from Canada, born and raised.
Where were you born?
Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Beautiful.
Fuck USA!
Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. And then it escalated into a full-on fight, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so do you want to set this up or should I just play it?
So the very first video that we watched from this sort of chain of interactions with the Iranian man and his wife, who are anti-regime, this lady, and it'll be explained in the video, but she allegedly sort of attacked the woman from behind, and then it devolved into
The Iranian woman?
a scuffle. Yeah. And then, you know, they were eventually separated, but this whole situation was avoidable. And, you know, moments ago, she's yelling about ICE and Trump. This is, you know, sure, international issues are all interconnected, but there's no logical thread between kind of what her like there. This was just gratuitous violence that shouldn't be happening at Canada's busiest intersection, if you ask me.
Gosh.
You have like sort of the regulars who are coming to intervene, right? Like these are the
That's like
guys
this
who just
guy?
loiter. Yeah, they just loiter, right? They're like, and now they're in the position of playing security. And then there's actual mall security who at this point was nowhere to be seen. They came eventually, but like, come on.
They're dealing with the shoplifters, in fairness,
Fair enough, yeah.
inside.
There's a lot of
Somebody, I didn't hit you, okay?
Who is this man behind with a hat?
another guy who loiters at the square.
Okay.
Okay?
And who's the man? I didn't get him, but the man with the sunglasses and like the big beard.
I'm not sure who he was actually. Let's see.
This guy?
Oh, he is sort of a regular on the protest circuit. And he may have been there for the Moms Resists rally. I'm not 100% sure, but he,
Okay, he's not
found his
Antifa.
way into this scene, however.
Okay.
Yo, that's fucked up, brother. That's fucked up.
Can you explain what happened to the camera?
I believe that this woman in a orange thing. I'm not sure about it. It's just my guess, and it's.
Who's he?
He is a streamer as well. I think his handle on Instagram might be 6walk6.
Okay.
So he's like a streamer.
Okay.
Based on what I see, I think that she slapped this man right here. This guy, I believe so. And then he started to fighting back her. So that's what I see. That's what I saw. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Fuck yourself.
None of your problem. None of your
And like immediately this guy is like, yeah, let's keep fighting. Like, bro, what are you doing? Anyway, sorry.
have no brain. Fuck you. Touched a woman.
Up and jumped the fucking broad from behind. Okay, came up and was smacking her in the back of the head from behind. So her husband turned around and defended her. I don't know how hard it got after that, but
Traitor, take the coward.
Stuck a Palestine flag in your ass.
Traitor, free Palestine.
Trevor, we've known each other a very, very long time. We have to agree that this is all your fault. No, Trevor.
Trevor is going to convert to Hinduism and Hindu nationalism, and everything's going to be fine. I'm going to fix Trevor. I got the solution.
It's just
It's a circus. It's a
it is a
24/7
circus.
24/7 circus.
Like I don't even know what people are hoping to like what is the Trevor even hoping to achieve?
Notoriety, just to agitate people. I don't know. Is someone incentivizing him to go out? Is he doing this of his own volition?
Like, is he getting paid? Does he have like
I don't
how
know.
does he have this kind of time?
I don't know. It's a very good question. I don't know. The sort of a general observation of mine is that there are people who will take righteous causes or, and then use that as a cover for antisocial activity. Quite clearly that's what he's doing. Trump is a pedophile, right? And he's either hoping to get people to agree or violently disagree. But the one thing I can say for certain is he consistently shows up places to cause strife.
Yeah.
Right. And so what does it mean if that's someone's kind of MO on a regular basis, right? How is that pattern not identified and dealt with? That is obviously disturbing the peace.
Yeah. I mean, he incited a woman who was visibly intoxicated to assault somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, for people who don't know, the Eaton Center is like in the heart of downtown Toronto, and I would think that a lot of tourists go there.
Absolutely.
It's just
Absolutely.
bad on every level. It's bad for law and order. It's bad for the city. So I lived in Toronto one summer when I was young, and I was in Toronto last summer in one of the neighborhoods I was in, and it was down near the aquarium.
Mhm.
And I was shocked by just how degraded everything is. Everything looks so run down.
Mhm.
And I hadn't been to the neighborhood for a very long period of time. So you
Mhm.
really can see the difference. When
Mhm.
things are disintegrating around people in their own environment, sometimes they don't notice because it's just decay, like gradual decay over time.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. Like, this
Yeah.
is, it used to be a very wealthy city and very clean, kind of boring, but there wasn't this kind of thing going on.
This now takes like basically zero effort to come across.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've documented protests all over, right? So Casa Loma, tourist attraction, you'd kind of expect that there's nothing going on there, right? Like outside baseball games, there's outside restaurants, outside the art gallery, like there's nowhere safe.
Yeah.
Safe.
In Montreal, I'd say it's more concentrated to the downtown core, but then sometimes they have drives and things.
Mhm.
They drive all over the place.
Like
And
convoys?
pardon?
Like a convoy?
Yeah, like a Palestine convoy.
Yeah.
And they drive up and down to Cary, or they've driven, I believe, through Montreal, maybe in Laval, somewhere.
Mhm.
I don't cover any of that because the last thing I need is to be in an identifiable vehicle dealing with, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's from the downtown core, like Place des Arts, and then the Old Port, and then the business district, McGill College, then the political offices around Place d'Armes, and then the Circle, which is on McGill College. And then they march all the way to the Israeli consulate,
Mhm.
which is the border of Westmount. So they cover a lot of the downtown core in Montreal.
Mhm.
And when they're marching, particularly, and around the universities, of course, around McGill, Concordia, UDM, whatever. But when they're doing these marches on the weekends, there are a lot of tourists out, and the tourists, they don't like it. Like, you can see in their faces, they're like, they're kind of scared. They're wondering what's going on. It's just, and I'm very pro freedom of expression. Like, I don't believe in hate speech. I believe in, people should be charged for, inciting terrorism and that.
Sure. I think we're probably similarly aligned on that. Where,
Yeah. Like, I don't think mean words need to be prosecuted.
Mhm.
I'm pretty much the widest berth somebody is going to be on speech.
Mhm.
And if I'm concerned about the speech, then the speech is concerning. It's
Yeah.
criminal.
Yeah.
But the law is not being applied in Canada. Certainly
Not
not
consistently.
not consistently. I'm going to bring up another, here we go, because this one I don't know anything about. So you're going to have to set it up for people. It is, okay, so there are two videos. Do you want me to start with the video on top or the video on the bottom?
The one on the bottom is our full interaction. The one on top is just, so I would play the one on the bottom if you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to set it up, this is sort of the tail end of a rally that ended at Nathan Phillips Square, our city hall, and protesters were praying silently. In this case, they weren't obstructing any road or sidewalk. And like you, I was standing at a relative distance, just capturing the scene.
Okay.
I usually do landscape. You're doing portrait?
I don't know. You keep taking videos of us.
Yeah, I'm
And sorry, the beginning of this.
my work appears.
I don't know if it was captured, but someone approached me and was like, "Is this how you do it?" And he was holding out his phone, and I like naively thought, is that how you film? And I was like, no, I usually, I film like landscape instead of portrait. And then, of course, it wasn't a good faith question or interaction, and it sort of devolves from there.
All of the major publications.
The journalists don't really exist, do they? They're kind of short and fat like that.
Pardon me?
They're kind of short and fat like that.
What's he saying?
So he's like, your journalists don't really exist. They're sort of short and fat. And you don't see him in my video here, but my videographer was just a few steps away also recording this. And I guess this guy was calling him short and fat. And I'm like, buddy, you're definitely shorter. Like, what are you talking about? But anyway. Like the people making physical appearance, like sort of comments or attacks, are never themselves.
Yeah, supermodels. Yeah.
But anyway.
See how much?
That short fat guy over there.
First of all, I don't think he's that short.
He's short. And he's
You
fat.
are for sure shorter than him. So
That's a Nazi helmet he's wearing.
it's not a Nazi helmet.
It is a Nazi helmet. I'm not an idiot.
It sounds like you are.
No, I'm not an idiot. And you're
It
not a
sounds very
journalist.
much like you are an
You
idiot.
put anything on your hand, call yourself whatever. You're violating people's privacy. That's what you're doing.
No, sir. I'm in public.
Religious practice.
Privacy. This is something I've heard. Sorry, I'm getting angry. Privacy. You're in a public square.
Yeah. The public square. This is City Hall. This is in front of City Hall. So by all means, do your thing, but let's not pretend that you need to be afforded any degree of privacy. Like, get real. And then you have this woman interjecting, being like, "Well, they're just doing a religious practice." It's like, who are you? And like, what?
Yeah. The incredible naivety of the average Canadian.
In public, I'm more than entitled to film it.
You're not entitled. You're a woman of color. Know your place. Woman in color.
You sound like the Nazi to me.
No, I'm not.
You just told me to know my
I'm
place.
a crippled queer. That's what I am. I know what my rights are. So you can put any hat that you want and call yourself media. What you are is intruder of privacy. You're a discriminator.
No,
you're
sir.
harassing.
We are all in public right now.
Nope.
This is a very public.
You are
demonstration.
harassing.
You don't think we're in public?
You are in people's private space. You're in my private space.
No, you came up to me.
You're
sir.
intimidating me, so I'm trying to walk around
came
you.
Up to me.
I'm
How
a
about
crippled
that?
guy. Your scooters
I'm
are
gonna stand
intimidating.
over here.
You want to claim private space? You want to claim public space?
He came up to me.
No, I didn't. I'm trying to
You
walk
did,
through.
actually. My video will reflect that, sir.
I'm trying to walk through a public space that you claim, and the crippled guy cannot get through. So are you going to move your scooter so the crippled guy can get
All
through?
you had to do was ask.
I did. I've been asking you for
did
5
not.
minutes.
That's not true. You are a liar, but that's no problem.
No, I'm not a liar.
You are a liar.
You're ashamed of Black Lives Matter.
You are a liar, sir.
Black Lives Matter. You're ashamed of Black Lives Matter. When you
yeah,
go
we
home
videotaped the
and you
whole
look in the
rally start to
mirror,
finish.
you tell yourself you're ashamed of Black Lives Matter.
Just, I'm not black. I want to put that out there. Just also,
Know your place. Know your place?
Yeah, know your place, woman of color. I posted this recently because, I had initially posted it and, just was in shock at like what a strange interaction. Turns out, Buddy works for the Ministry of the Solicitor General, which, for those who are unaware, deals with emergency response, police, jails, kind of that infrastructure that keeps us safe. He previously worked with the Ministry of Transportation. So this is someone who, in theory, has access to sensitive data, potentially even private information of citizens. You know, and that to me is something that should at the very least, be investigated, not just arising out of our interaction here, but also a very colorful social media history that would strongly suggest a degree of discrimination, even hatred toward Jewish people specifically, right? Not just kind of Israel or state actors, but Jewish people. And, you know, I'm not Jewish, but he set his sights on me as well. And, you know, to me, that's something that like is just, it's shocking that that's someone who, you know, is paid for by taxpayers, and B, like I say, has potentially access to sensitive information, despite being a little bit volatile.
Yes, it reminds me of coverage of an Antifa operative that Alexandre Lavoie and Guillaume Roy got from last summer. He ran into a church during a church service and threw, I believe it was 2, but at least 1 smoke bomb at the performer. And then in her investigative work, she discovered that he was employed at the Department of National Defense. And to this day, I don't believe that he is being charged. I could be wrong about that.
No, I think, in fact, police have expressly stated that they don't intend to lay charges for that. If I believe Alexa had posted like an update to that effect. So, you know, and just to add to this, the performer was an American visiting who was touring Canada, whose tour stops were being hounded and venues were canceling on him for no clear reason. And so he moved this particular performance inside a church. You know, so you have kind of a national, like an international incident, because you have you know, and obviously our relationship with the United States has been a little bit fraught. So that's one level of concern. Then you have a religious service that is being not only disrupted, but in, you know, a fairly violent way. Sure, not violent in the sense of causing injuries, but that's absolutely, in my view, a form of intimidation. You know, it's just, that would be inappropriate and shocking and hateful if someone did it in a mosque or a synagogue or a mandir, or, you know, so what the hell?
What's a mandir?
Like a Hindu temple.
Oh, I never knew that. I just learned something today.
Well, there you go.
I'm just looking for a picture. Keep talking if you can.
I could have continued, like a gurdwara, like it would just be, you can't do that anywhere. You know, and so, and like, then you have, yes, like what information is he privy to as someone who works at DND?
It's very scary. Like that. It's very scary. And also when she found him outside of work, I think it was outside of his work, it was in a very short period of time, she was assaulted. So
yeah, these black bloc people dressed in black bloc showed up out of nowhere and then like pushed her, grabbed the camera, sort of swept him away, allowed him sort of space to escape. So if there was any doubt, is this the right person? That, like, okay, Antifa didn't pop out of nowhere. So he is closely enough connected that they were maybe communicating in real time, and were close enough that they, you know, dropped whatever, I'm sure, productive activities they were engaged in to come assault Alexa and Guillaume, I guess, but whoever was with her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost there. I'm looking. So it was Sean Foyt, but I'm looking for, here we go. Okay. So there was an article that I had, here, let me bring it up. Sean Foyt was a performer, and there was no honest coverage in the legacy media about his performance and the way, I'd say, the mayor, like the reasons for the cancellation. So the headline was Montreal says it will fine church after mega superstar concert goes ahead without permit by Erica Morris. And I've followed this journalist before, and this is Erica
Well,
Morris.
yes. Yeah.
That was, I didn't have to go searching. Okay. That's her pinned tweet. Glad I'll be remembered properly. So, I mean, this is the foot forward she's choosing, right? This is the legacy media. And,
if this was all like scripted in a movie, it would be, this is too heavy-handed.
Yeah.
This is, like, come on. Like, that's not, come on. But no, that's our reality in our little timeline here.
It is a reality in our timeline. And it's funny because, so I don't know how close you followed all of the public prayer stuff, but it's been a big story.
Mm-hmm.
And the indies in Montreal have been covering it. And at the same time that all this public prayer stuff was coming out because the legislation was put in, it was Bill 9, creates some confusion because it's not Bill C9. And I called it erroneously Bill C9 in one of my posts because I was cold and I was typing and I didn't even notice. I think it was an autocorrect. But it's at the provincial level, not at the federal level. It's not the hate crime stuff. It's the, oops, sorry, so it's to stop public prayers that are blocking roads in Montreal. And so I went to cover, and there was, of course, prayers, but they did a dua instead of a sala. So instead of getting down, they did an invocation. So I covered that in a few live streams. I'm not going to go into it again. But around the same time that this was big in the news, there was also a story about Mohammed Bakali, who went viral for speaking in a very degrading way to a female police officer. So that story was trending. The prayer story was trending. And then Alexandra Lavoie also interviewed in a long form, like more like a podcast style, like over an hour interview or around an hour with the leader of the provincial sovereigntist party. So the Parti Québécois. And that it was unbelievable. There were entire segments complaining that he had done an interview with her, and they called her work activist journalism. And so when I'm profiling obvious political activists who are explicit in their political activism in my own work, like I've profiled a number of them, that is legacy media. It's mainstream media. It's state-funded media. But yet Alexa, who shoots in RAW a lot of the time and is doing a lot of traditional journalism, which is trying to interview politicians, trying to get honest statements out of them. She's willing to do a sit-down interview with all of these politicians. They avoid her. She's demanding accountability for the public. She's doing investigative reports. Like, she does a lot of different things. And they're calling her activist media, and their reporting is now becoming about her.
Right. And not because, at least in my view, she's not doing anything to make herself the story.
No.
She's just existing and performing sort of her functions. And if I'm not mistaken, interviewing someone who, like, no one else has really cared to interview
ask him
anyway.
No. He put out a statement saying that none of them had asked him for a long form interview.
Yeah.
So I can't verify that, but I don't think he would have put it out if it was a lie. They're all after him anyway. So it's just it's
what an impact independent media is having, though, right? Like, the 3 examples you just listed, it's like, whoa, we really have them by the what.
Well, not even anticipating that, So I went to cover an event last night at a Jewish advocacy group, and it was PSPP. So Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the politician I just mentioned, the leader of the Parti Québécois. It's very interesting that the leader of a sovereigntist political party is going to a Jewish advocacy town hall. Like this is it's very unusual in Quebec. Okay, like I've lived here for decades, and it shows how much the political landscape is changing, I would say. And so I found it like an interesting evening to cover. And what happened at the end was that we were told the media were not to ask questions until the end because it was a town hall and they wanted kind of just normal people to interact. So that was fine. Everybody followed that rule. But a lot of media went up to ask questions, and I was the last in line, and somebody told me at the end, you'll be the last person. I said, okay. But when I went up to the mic, the woman who was running the event said, oh, sorry, we're not taking questions from media. But like Quebec Fiao, somebody from the radio, other media personalities had already asked questions. And I can't, speak for her. And I said, well, lots of other people did. I'm going to ask my question. I just went ahead and PSPP graciously answered the question. But I think there is a certain threat that I don't even really understand from independent media now, like not just with legacy media, but with different advocacy groups. And
I think it could be, we're like a wild card, right? No one knows really what to expect, and you can't prep for it. And because we're not subsidized, we're not beholden to the same interests, which, in a healthy sort of democracy and media landscape, all of those things are assets. But instead it's a threat.
It concerns me deeply that it's perceived to be a threat that somebody asks questions of politicians.
Yeah.
And
then that gives rise to sort of the ambush gotcha interviews, right? Where, okay, I see him, he's leaving this venue and he's crossing or whatever, so we're going to seize that opportunity. And then there are people who, oh, that's not civilized, that's not a good way to do journalism. Okay, but there's no other way to get them.
There's no other way, because the independents also are, you've been prevented from going into political events, right?
Yeah, from basically every party at this point, although some of the parties like kind of reversed that policy, and then, now it's fine. But
who reversed it?
Doug Ford eventually, I guess, figured out that I was going to keep showing up, and it wasn't worth it. Pierre Poilievre as well. Mark Carney never changed his course.
Meaning you're not allowed in?
Abby Lewis.
Sorry. Are you not allowed into the Liberal?
I'm allowed into other Liberal events. So like for specific MPs, I've never had a problem. But Mark Carney specifically won't let me in. Abby Lewis.
Do you feel powerful? It's like the Prime Minister is not letting you into, like, doesn't that seem a bit crazy in a way? Like,
I don't think it's not proportionate to anything I've ever said or done.
No,
so
you're very, like, I've spent a week with this woman and she's very chill.
I think so. It's the weed. But yeah, like it makes no sense to me. In some ways I feel powerful about it, but then in other ways it's the opposite. And I feel like very disempowered, where I'm like, I'm just one person and I'm being shut out. Like, what the hell? And I don't have recourse, and I can contact the party and try to, but like,
what are they hiding? What are they like? What?
Right. And like, what could I possibly I don't know. That other people with cameras, that I don't know.
Was that before or after your iconic elbows up capture?
I only got that iconic capture because I wasn't allowed into the event. So joke's on you. Same with the Brantford Boomer. Joke's on you. Just let me in next time.
Yeah, yeah. I guess sometimes the stories write themselves when you're kept on the outside.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna roll with whatever I get. If I have paid for an Uber to get to whatever location, you better believe I'm leaving with some footage.
Yeah, it's but
Right?
Brantford's far too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I live in the GTA, right? So it was a trek.
Toronto's big.
Yeah.
Feels laborious every time I go there. I say yes to doing something. And then I look at the distance and I realize the time commitment just to get there and back.
Mhm.
It's
Don't
no
worry, we're gonna
joke.
get a high speed railway. So
Are you? I think they started
no, we're not.
They started doing some kind of work when I was there in the early noughts, and they haven't finished it yet.
It's only been 26 years. Hold your patience, please.
Like we built an entire bridge in Quebec. It's like we have the most, well, maybe not anymore, but we used to have the most corrupt construction industry in the country by far.
Hmm.
The mob were completely entrenched. There was an inquiry about it. It was like a sizable portion of infrastructure spending was just payoffs to the mob and then politicians being paid for giving them contracts, essentially. It boils down like a long story into something concise. And we can still get stuff done. I mean, not the roads because that's built-in failure, right? Just for endless contracts.
Hmm.
But a bridge went up very quickly, like in a matter of a few years.
So we look to the mob as an example, a shining example of efficiency. How quaint that used to be sort of the extent of corruption.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Montreal has always been very corrupt. I remember like I don't know if it's still the case anymore because I have to do some research into the kind of factoids I used to know. Things can become obsolete, but it used to be the province with the largest black market economy.
Hmm.
And
entrepreneurial. I like that.
Entrepreneurial. Yeah. Well, I think everywhere where the taxes are incredibly high, you're going to have people developing creative ways not to pay the taxes, right? But I think with automation and just computers, it's probably removed a certain amount from restaurants because restaurants used to be, before the COVID regime, Montreal used to have the most restaurants per capita of any city in the world aside from New York City. And I think that a certain portion of the restaurant industry and bar industry was just money laundering for organized crime. I don't know what the portion would have been, but it was known, different streets were run by different mobs. It was like the Irish mob that would collect in some streets, and then the mob in the others, and then the Haitians and more north. So each region had their different organized crime. In the East End, you had the rock
like everyone
and the Hells.
coexisted.
They seem to.
I guess.
They seem to. There was an incident with a busboy at a pub that I worked at where he was breaking up the ice with an axe on the steps so that people wouldn't fall. And one mobster, I can't remember if it was the Russians hit the Irish or the Irish hit the Russians, but one of them axed the other one in front of him, grabbed up. So that wasn't good.
Oh.
But generally, the violence was fairly confined just to, organized crime. Now it seems to be spilling out. I wanted to ask, this is totally unrelated to our topics. You don't have to answer, but I was wondering what's going on with the tow trucks, organized crime in Toronto. Like, what is that?
I don't know, but I feel like the cops are involved.
Oh,
I don't know.
Like they're on the take?
Listen, I don't know. I don't even drive, Natasha. I don't know.
Like I'm not allowed.
That's like fully not my problem. I don't know. It's probably not good, but I don't know. And I'm sure the cops are involved, but I don't know.
That's not encouraging. It's not
I don't
encouraging.
know if you've been following Project South, is that what they're calling it? But like they've arrested a bunch of police for allegedly being on the take in inappropriate ways and colluding to perhaps try and assassinate a prison guard who was not on board with these shenanigans. And they're gonna scapegoat whoever, but to me this signals like a much deeper problem that's entrenched. And I was speaking with a more veteran senior journalist who was like, oh yeah, like every 10 years or so something like this happens, and then it blows over, and then life goes on. He's very nonchalant about it, but still disturbed. But he's like, no, that's just the cops themselves are a big gang, and that's what it is.
It's very worrying. I think I've been operating in a parallel universe or something, for a while. I interviewed, I don't know if you know his work or not. Do you know Paul Manning?
I follow him on social media. Yes.
Okay, so I had seen a post that I thought was intriguing, and then I interviewed him.
Yeah, watch
And
that.
I told him going into it, like, I just don't know much about policing. One of my uncles, my late uncle, was a policeman, so I know a little bit that way. But it's not something like I have acquaintances who are police officers. It's just not something I know much about. So usually I have a little more knowledge in the areas that, like, the people I interview. But so I was just interested in hearing his story, and it's just astonishing, the degree of corruption that he indicated. It's very worrying.
Yes.
Very, very worrying. And people can judge for themselves and watch the interview. And he's written a book. I think he's working on another one. But he took his allegations to court, and it was settled. So I'm inclined to believe him. And he has never been sued for anything he has alleged, to my knowledge. So I think it carries a lot of weight. And he had a really interesting and dangerous career as an undercover police officer. And I thought it was a compelling interview. I'd like to have him on again now that I've learned a little bit more, and I'd like to read his book and then have him back on. But it's scary, really.
No one is coming to save us, and the people who are meant to protect us, aren't all bad intentioned. But how do you tell the good from the bad, and how can anyone good really rise the ranks? I don't know.
Yeah. I had a lot of
And that's
questions
just
after
one
that.
sort of institution, right? We look at all of the institutions, and it's like, damn, like they're all collapsing simultaneously. Is that normal? Does this usually happen? I don't know. I've only lived this one time, as far as I'm aware. But like, it's not looking great, I don't think.
No, it's not. It's things just don't work properly anymore. And sometimes I feel like I'm in almost like a movie. Sometimes I guess I get disassociated, because there are a lot of people who just flat out deny that things are not working properly anymore. And then if you begin to ask them specific questions, they'll admit, like, oh yeah, so yeah, it did take 2 years to get the medical treatment or whatever that I needed, but it's free, or whatever cope they use. But there seem to be, I guess, people in the decision-making echelon, and in kind of institutions that are ideologically captured, are still doing well, and they're still benefiting and from the system, and things are not breaking down in their neighborhoods. They're not dealing with the home invasions yet, but it's beginning to start, right? The home invasions in nicer neighborhoods. And I remember someone who is very smart at the beginning of all the COVID regime stuff, the medical tyranny. I was really, like, people who know me know this part of my story, but I was opposed to all of it from day one and a civil liberties perspective. And I was very concerned about the economic ramifications and the way this would affect particularly younger people and also abandoned seniors. And those really were the two groups that were the hardest hit, like children and seniors, young families. But anyway, so I was having a conversation with somebody like-minded as the lockdowns, or not the lockdowns, but things were starting to close. The lockdowns started a few days later. And he said to me, people are not going to be opposed to this, because I thought everybody would be. I was very naive. He said people will not be opposed to any of this until they start losing their businesses and they start losing their homes, and until it hits them in their pocketbook. And that really is what happened.
And that is sort of a trickle. So it means that, you know, there's no real momentum. It's just individual people looking crazy until you're like, oh, maybe you're not so crazy. But
yeah, that's certainly how it was for me. It took a while before there was like a group of people who I'd say became skeptical of the mandates about 2 months in, because they were the people, excuse me, who thought it would just be 2 weeks. And so there was a group then, and then there was another group who were not happy with the mask mandates. And then there was another group that became concerned with the vaccine passports. And then there was, of course, the Freedom Convoy, the truckers, when that mandate went in. So it was like all along the way, there were different groups, but, you know, there are many people who benefited from it initially. Like, I knew people who were delighted because they were compensated more. They got paid more. Whereas someone like me, like, I was just crushed over and over again by it because I had my own business. So it was just shut down over and over and over again. I rebuilt to 50%. I get shut down again, rebuilt to 50%.
Which really, it punished kind of the risk takers, right? And the people who were out being innovative and, you know, putting themselves on the line, not the ones who were necessarily salaried or particularly with the, you know, public service within bureaucracy.
The entire
not all
managerial
public service
regime
is built equal.
The entire managerial regime benefited, I would say, and were compensated. And they might not have liked staying home, but I think most people did. You know, but like maybe not maybe the extroverts didn't enjoy it as much, but the introverts were happy enough. But I'm seeing the same thing. So I don't want to keep you all night. I realize we've gone a while. The time passes.
It's when you're having fun. This has been a blast.
It has been. I was saying to a friend that the first time I had you on, I didn't know you. I didn't really know much about you. I was like pretty curious. And I think, like, you didn't know me either. And I think
I know you from your sort of online work, right? So yes, we were parasocial. And now we're like social.
We're friends now. Yeah, you're my friend now, whether you like it or not.
I like it.
I'm glad. But yeah, so it was interesting, like, coming into the second interview, because now, you know, we've spent a fair amount of time together, and we're trauma bonded, you know, from our work.
Most definitely.
And and
the Rebel Christmas party. That was enough.
The Rebel Christmas party. Oh man, I did not get as much negative feedback as you did from that, but I got, like, I still get a lot of negative feedback from going to Israel. Like, it really, really angers people, and it's I imagine it's worse for you.
You know, it's all just noise. There's a lot of noise all the time, and everyone can fuck off.
Yeah, I agree. Caryma, when you were, I have to say this is like a little silly anecdote, but I was very sleep deprived. I think I was not sleeping, like I was sleeping like a couple hours a night on that trip just with the jet lag, and I was like overstimulated, and I'm not a great sleeper at the best of times. I need like ideal conditions to sleep. So I was really sleep deprived, and we'd gone to the hotel, we checked in, and we were going to go out, and I didn't have my jacket. I couldn't find my jacket. And I was super agitated because I love this jacket. My mom gave it to me. I love my mom. And the jacket's so beautiful. And it also was chilly. And so I needed a jacket. And I had looked everywhere, and I didn't want to keep everybody waiting because it's so rude. And I said, "Can I just go look one more time?" And you were like, "You seem like the kind of person who puts things away. Did you maybe hang it up?" Sure.
I can't relate to you at all, but did you check the closet?
It was in the closet because I always unpack when I go into a hotel. I put everything, I get my toiletries out. Like I like to be very organized. And you somehow knew this about me. You could tell.
I say I read people.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you think, like on that trip, did you think everybody was as they appeared online when you met them in real life?
I only knew a few online personas. And I don't know that I had given it like that much thought. I think Alex Zoltan matched kind of what I anticipated. Andy as well.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how familiar I was with anyone else. I also, so what I knew or anticipated kind of tracked, but not in like negative ways. Just, it sort of got the full picture a little bit, which was nice.
Yeah, I thought so too. Like I think because there are people operating in the media sphere who are completely inauthentic.
Yes. I did not get that from any of us, which is we're real scumbags. Just
yeah. Everybody seemed exactly as my impression of them through their work. So there are some people who are authentic and real and really just trying to do their best, right, to bring the public an honest account of what's happening. And I think you're one of them. You're an important one. I'm just going to look at some of the comments before I let you go. Win for the cameraman. I think maybe that's about your cameraman.
I think so. I think it might have been right after he was like, "I'm Canadian."
Oh yeah. That poor woman, though. I mean, she shouldn't be assaulting people. It's not totally unacceptable, but she's unwell. Like she shouldn't be running around the streets intoxicated. Like if she's that easily incited to violence.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
She's a danger to herself and other people. And I assume she's never been picked up. Like you can't have people running around assaulting other people and nothing happening. Like that's anarchy.
Or even if she has been picked up, it's sort of a catch and release, and our jail isn't like, that's not the right place, right? That's not actually a solution to anything. So I don't think that we need to just be jailing everyone. But the supports that are needed simply aren't available. And there's a lot of people who need a lot of support. And I that's another thing where I'm like, I'm not sure if that's ever been the case to the extent it is right now. But definitely there's a lot of people who need intense help, and that help is just not available.
Yeah, I had on Heather Mason.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Do you know who she is? Yeah.
I know her story and her work.
So that was a fascinating interview. She was an addict. She's recovered for a long time, over 10 years. And she was in and out of jail due to that situation. And it was very eye-opening, because that's another topic that I didn't know about. I've been to one prison in my life up north. When I was on a canoe trip, we went to a prison they had a program where the prisoners would make soapstone carvings, and I bought one. and it was just in the lobby. You know what I mean? So that's the full. And then I've flown over once when I was piloting a plane. I flew over a prison, Donnacona, and like it's restricted airspace, so you've got to be certain elevation or to the side of it. And I saw it. That's the sum total of my knowledge of prisons. It's non-existent. And what I didn't know before I spoke with her is that like there's a huge number of women who basically have mental health issues or learning disabilities, some kind of cognition problem that are in jail. And I didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah.
I knew that marginalized people are more likely to be victims of and involved in crime, but I didn't realize the extent to which it was an issue in prisons.
And women who are abused as well, I think are disproportionately represented. So yeah, it's very dark. It's very sinister. It's not visible.
Yeah.
Right. It's not visible for the most part, unless you happen to have a relative or a friend or, just most people don't think about it. I've spent a not insignificant amount of time in jails, visiting clients, not like personally.
Oh, of work. Okay.
Yeah. So, and, it's just like that also is a very limited experience, right? You go through security, so you have a sense of what that is, and then you're in like a private room, and on a couple of occasions, right, depending on the facility, like you kind of have to walk around places or whatever. But yeah, it's bleak. Like it's, and Doug Ford was just in the news for some ridiculous statement to the effect of just stack them 10 people high or whatever. Like, we don't need more jail space, just put them in there. And it's like, jail itself, is not supposed to be the punishment in the sense of depriving you of all dignity. And like, it's just, it shouldn't be inhumane. It shouldn't be a form of torture in and of itself. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just, it sucks. Everything sucks.
And the worst part, I think, for women, which is something that a lot of people don't know about, is there are males in female prisons.
Yep.
And so women are being raped. They're being beaten up. There's been one woman had her ribs broken by a male baby rapist who also murdered a toddler. And they're LARPing as females, and they're trapped. And there are a few things that I can imagine that would be scarier than being trapped in a jail with guards who won't intervene because there are incentives not to intervene, where you're afraid to fight back because that impacts your own ability to get out of jail.
Yep.
And being trapped with like a hulking, mentally ill, dangerous, violent predator. Like it just seems like that approximates hell.
Yep. Yeah.
And a lot of Canadians don't know that this is happening. And I'm happy that people care about sports. It's important. Like I was an ex-athlete. I was an athlete growing up. It shaped a huge part of who I am. I absolutely don't want males in sports, but I think the scariest thing for me is males near mother and baby units around female prisoners. And oftentimes they're not housed in like the same situations that male prisoners are housed in. So they might have kind of a communal living type of situation where there aren't necessarily locks, or they're living in like, like a home style environment. And yeah, so that was a chilling learning curve for me over that episode to learn about it. But everything
sports is an easier, I think, entry point for most people because it's more relatable. But yeah, that the most sort of serious or life-threatening? No. And like, it's just on all fronts. This is, I think, an important topic that I don't know. It's very like, there's a consensus that is not really a consensus that has been imposed. And there is very little room to diverge from that without facing serious social
ramifications or criminal ones. you know,
Pardon me?
or being dragged to some human rights tribunal.
Yeah, financial consequences, social employment. You know, there are a lot of disincentives to speak freely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to kind of wrap everything together, because we, went off a little bit, but I think the overarching web is that we have institutional collapse at some levels, and then at other levels, institutional decay, I guess, ranging from decay to just collapse.
Mhm.
And we're seeing it play out on our streets at every level. Like, we have an immigration system that's not working. We're seeing that with some of the activists. We have mentally ill people who are not being cared for. We see that with some of the activists. We have an element like issues with policing. We're seeing that with the activists. Where we have a legal system that is, in my opinion, barely functional at this point. We're seeing that with the activists. And sooner or later,
Did you say schools? Because that's another one.
From cradle to grave, the schools, the indoctrination, the universities, the activist class operating within the universities and having infiltrated the academy. I'm seeing this at every level, and I'm hoping that the work that both of us are doing is going to help people to shed a light, because you're seeing like that man who accosted you, he should not have access to any information about anybody else, and he should not be being paid by taxpayers.
Agreed.
And it's like, if people follow Leviathan, his account profiles extremists, and a fair number of them are working in the public sector. It's really scary. Like, they have access to sensitive information. And
that's who identified that particular person.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see. Okay.
There's a lot. I agree wholeheartedly. And in order to address any of this decay or collapse, it is not, the solutions will not come from an ideological perspective. It will come from something that's more grounded in the actual function and mandate and sort of return to basics. And there's no appetite for that within leadership, likely because they benefit directly from the status quo. So that's the challenge that our generation, that we face, right? To kind of address that, tackle it in some way, to expose it, to whatever. And yes, we're working toward it. And I think that there's impact. And I think that if there was no impact, then we would not be on the receiving end of hostility in the way that we currently are. So keep it moving.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty thankless. Like, somebody wrote to me recently and said, I imagine that your work is fairly thankless. And that's a good descriptor, because I lose money doing it, because I'm losing my time. And you have to invest in equipment, you have to invest in subscriptions, and there's post-production. There are different, media platforms. There's a learning curve across. I'm now trying to expand to other media platforms. Every single one has different formatting. Like, it is not straightforward for someone who's not techie like me. And I'm now, unfortunately, because I've never been somebody who's been in the public eye until recently, and I don't like to be in the public eye. I don't like to be recognizable. I don't like strangers coming up to me who know me and I don't know them. It gives me the creeps. But I don't see any other way forward unless there are more independents doing the work. So I'm doing my best to contribute, because there aren't very many of us.
Well, I think you're doing swell.
Well, thank you. You too. I hope people will contribute and, help you to make the work that you're making, because otherwise you know, it reaches a certain point where you're getting assaulted, you're dealing with a lot of headaches, it's a lot of time, and you know, you're wondering at a certain point, like, why
Yeah.
am I putting a big target on my back?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's like a daily,
Question, a daily question, a
for
daily.
sure. Yeah, a daily thought. But like, if not us, then who?
Well, that's it. You reach a certain point where it's fun to complain, but it's not very useful. You know? All right, Caryma. We're almost at 2 hours. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and thank you for the work you're doing. I'm going to be trying to catch up with the online accounts. You're one of the few accounts where I'm regularly checking in and following.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Not for lack of interest. I'm interested in a lot of accounts, but your work is really, really important. So I need to check in. I don't always have time to look, you know, at the work people are doing because there's so many fires that we need to cover that
Everything is burning all the time.
everything is always burning. Yes, exactly.
But at least we can laugh, right? And so that's it. That's how we get through this.
Yeah. And if you come to Montreal, I insist on seeing you.
Beautiful. Soon.
I think you have to come to cover. You have to come to Montreal to cover events here at some point.
You and Alexa are wild. Like, kudos to both of you because I'm good. I'm good with the soft Toronto people.
They may not know you though the first time that you go.
That's true. I got one shot. All right.
You have one shot.
Don't let them see this. Delete this.
But I think they would know you because I was surprised when I went to Toronto to work and people were calling me out by name, like they knew exactly who I was.
Yeah, the networks cross provincial borders, they cross cities. It's, the local is national and international, and the international is also local. So we're fine.
Yeah, I think especially with Antifa, they're particularly, and then there's that nutter Daniela. She really hates me.
She's heading to Gaza on a flotilla. So
yeah, I think she's in it for the sandwiches personally, but I don't think they're going to make it. But I don't actually know. I confused. Somebody was telling me about this, and I go into an information vortex where I consume and everything blends in. So it was like the flotilla, they got the sandwich, then the Egyptians threw things at them, and they were like, no, Natasha, you're combining two different things.
I like your version better. I think we should actually all just get news from Natasha, and it's just you like sort of, this is kind of what I think is happening in the world. I would watch that for sure.
That's maybe what I should do. Invent my own headlines that kind of approximate vaguely what happened.
Might as well. I mean,
then they'll hire me at the CBC.
The only thing is, whatever you come up with will be less absurd than reality. So
yeah, exactly.
The Egyptians were throwing.
But do you remember there was a weekend where I was under the weather and I wasn't really making any content or reading. I was just not feeling well enough to do much. And I remember just laughing and laughing and laughing at my feed because the Egyptians were just having none of it. They were not interested in these protesters at all. And the very different touch.
There are things that fly here that would not work literally anywhere else in the world. So maybe that's something for our leaders to reflect on, but what do I know?
Yeah. And it's like when you see that sense of entitlement rub up against the harsh reality of a different country, to me, it's like poetic, Yeah. All right, Miss, I am going to let you go.
This was lovely. Thank you for having me.
I want to do, if you're interested, like a panel and try to get the gang,
I'm into it.
Yeah. I want to talk about our trip and enrage people and just have like a stream of hostile comments. I think that would be fun, especially for Hal, the racist that was on the trip.
Hal's my favorite.
I got him the last night. He really disliked me. But
don't think he disliked you.
he wanted to dislike me.
But you're again disarming. So
I wore him down.
Totally spy material.
Yeah, when I met him, I was like, I'm gonna wear him down, and I did.
Too funny.
But yeah, it wasn't till the last night. So have a good night and say hello to your videographer from me.
I will. Bye, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, tune in, follow Caryma if you don't already, and support Caryma if you don't already.
Cheers.